You just released the project management course. Who's that for? What can people expect to find inside of that?
Yeah, so the project management course really is focused on managing your clients and managing your internal team. So what we found is there's been a gap in the market in terms of creative service business and project management, where a lot of the stuff that's out there right now is mostly focused on product development or product design. And there's not many, and they're mostly for internal teams. And there's not much that focuses on managing clients. So in our particular unique situation here at Blind, where we've worked on motion projects for a long time, video projects, branding and web projects. I think we've tried a lot of different things. We've worked with a lot of different project managers, and we've found a system that works for us that actually applies to all those types of projects. So it's really for the creative service business that needs to get a handle and manage their team and their clients.
So I know, like at Blind, you guys have worked with like billion-dollar companies, like really big companies, big projects. I mean, how applicable are these principles for like someone who's freelancing or someone who's just a solopreneur and they have maybe like smaller web design projects or brand identity? Is it the same kind of process that you found on these big projects as these smaller projects?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, we've worked on very small projects and then much bigger clients like you've mentioned. And a lot of what we cover in the course should apply to both because we've applied it to both. And like the major things that you're going to see in there is how we break down projects, which we use a system called chunking. Chunking is just taking something very big, which when you get to any particular project, especially for these big like $1 million projects, you look at it as like, oh my gosh, where do I even begin? It's like this huge, massive deliverable and so much on the line. So you take that thing and you break it down into little sprints or phases. Then you break those down into tasks, and then you just tackle those tasks on a weekly basis and assign it to the team. So we just take something that's very big and we teach you how to break it down into much smaller chunks so that you can handle it in little weekly sprints.
When you're in the sales process and you're working with a client and you're coming up with a proposal, like do you bring a project manager in at that point to kind of help you figure out how we're going to deliver this? Or because I feel like sometimes one of the pain points that I have had is I'll be talking with the client and I'll say, okay, I think it'll be this long for us to do this project, and these are all the pieces that are in there, and then I hand that off to my project manager who would be like, you didn't account for this or that, and
right.
And so obviously it's like a learning curve for us is trying to figure out what our system is, but I feel like it probably would have been helpful to consult with them before just giving a price.
Right. So the interesting thing is, over the years, especially when we were doing a lot of motion work, I would always have a producer on the team. Producer is just an interchangeable title for a project manager in that industry. So I would always have somebody to work with and bounce those ideas off of. So if we're looking and scoping out a project and we look at this animation and I'm saying, we're going to need 3 animators for 3 weeks. And then my producer would be like, okay, so you need 5 weeks, right? So they would, because the thing is creatives, I think we underestimate the amount of time it's going to take for a task to get done. Part of it, I think, is pride and ego. It's like, we could do this quickly. It looks easy, right? Like that's the general consensus that a lot of creatives have. So they underestimate the amount of time it takes. But over the years working with a lot of non-creatives and producers and project managers, they've kind of given me the reality. It's like, well, see, we have to pad for this. We have to pad for this. And this is actually what it's going to take, because you're only accounting for how fast you work, but you're not accounting for all the things that could go wrong. So you have to pad it. So I think because I've worked with those types of people, I've developed those same instincts. Right. So when I'm looking at my own projects, I don't necessarily need the project manager or producer there for me to pad a project, because I know that there needs to be some fudge factor involved in there.
I think a lot of people too, they're in the position to where they've maybe been like solopreneurs and they're good at their one thing. So they're good at, let's say, graphic design, but now they're like, I want to go to the agency. I want to add some more disciplines and bring on some partners or freelancers or contractors. Right. And the fear is like, I don't know how to even bid this out because I don't know what that whole process looks like. Like how much of that discipline should they know before they start working with other people?
I think before you work with other people, especially if you're hiring somebody to do what you do or to supplement what you do, is to understand your own process. So if you don't have a good understanding of your process, like when a client hands you a project and says, design this logo, and you're just fumbling around for 2 or 3 weeks and then you deliver that to the client, then you don't really have a process.
Right.
But if you understand, it's like, okay, first I'm going to do some research, then I'm going to do some sketches, then I might put together some mood boards or stylescapes to present to them, then do some iterations, refine, and then deliver. And it's like, okay, great. There's 6 or 7 steps there that I know that I could hire somebody for steps 2 through 5, or whatever that might be. Then it's much easier for you to understand how long did it take me to do that? Let's add a little padding, and then that's how long I would hire somebody for to do that thing. So I think understanding your own process is very helpful. The flip side is you might be hiring a specialist for something that's completely outside of your wheelhouse. And in that case, all you have to do is ask them what their process is. Yeah. And if they don't have a good answer for that, they're probably not a good person to hire either, because now you're just tossing money into a black box and you're not sure what you're going to get out on the other side. So if you're vetting potential freelancers or specialists or vendors to help you out on a project, you might ask them, well, here's what the client's asking for. How might you solve this? Well, tell me a little bit about your process so I know what to expect. And from there, they'll tell you, oh, it's going to take me about 2 weeks. We probably need to do 3 rounds back and forth, you and me, before we share that with the client. Then okay, I have to charge and pad for that, both in my schedule and in my budget.
Yeah, I think it's been helpful too, is before I felt comfortable, because I'm like very cautious when selling anything, especially if it's something that I don't have in-house as a discipline that we do, is pre-vet those people before I start to sell it. And so instead of selling it and be like, oh crap, I need to find a web designer, I've already have a network of people that I've seen their work, and then I've had these conversations like, what is this going to cost?